Shit. I forgot to open my beer. Today is Thursday, right? Yes, today is Thursday. Okay. Aha. I'm gonna wait for some people, see who shows up. Might not be many. Oh, there are some people here. I still don't know if it's okay to call them out by name, so I'll wait for chatting, and then I'll say hello, and then I'll say hello. Because I get to see, I can click and see who's here, who I should mark absent, and who I should mark as present. This might be a short stream today. We can explain a little bit when we're a little deeper into the stream. But if nobody ends up coming, I think I'll probably just play this for a little bit and then end the stream early. Because there doesn't seem there has not seemed to be much traction in the Discord this week, which is partially my fault, but I'm also getting ready to move this weekend, so like all of our shit is in boxes. And I started a new German class, so that's kind of thrown me for a loop as well. Yes, and I'm learning the German public transit system. It's not as easy. Well, that's not bad, but it's not, if you don't speak German, man, it's not simple. But I have two ideas for today. If more people show up, I will present these ideas. If nobody shows up, I'm just going to do this. Because I think I could talk about this for a minute. It's kind of the perfect thing to stream if nobody's here. Oh, I forgot to do my button. I made a button and everything. You see? Button. One of the things I always forget to do is update the Discord. Live now. But I don't think anybody's here anyway. At Livestream Fans. Might need a link. I should probably just save a link. But I could also go into live on Twitch. And then copy message link. No. Copy link. No, not open link. Copy link. And then we go into stream chat. Wherever that may be. There we go. Paste. Enter. Oh shit, I keep forgetting to do that too. I'm sorry, Dave. Oh. I guess that was the other thing. I'll have to have Jake help me with that. Okay. So if I made this smaller, made that bigger, made that smaller, then made me a little bit bigger, is that good? Probably. But if I'm playing this today, I will very likely need to be over here. I could also just do like a rundown. That's kind of something that I've been interested in doing. Is like quick videos 5-minute, 10-minute videos where I kind of give the rundown of how the ludic text of a particular game conveys the meaning of it. And like some games would be harder than others, I think, but like Magic, I think Magic would probably take me a really long time. Hello, why would you do this? I'm still in bed. You're still in bed? I'm so sorry. Anyways, hello. But yeah, so like the just smaller videos that go on the YouTube channel where I don't know, because part of the problem that I have with the idea is that I can only speak from one side of the equation, right? I can only, one side, I don't know. I can only speak from 2, and I can't speak from after plus 2. You know what I mean? Like I can say, okay, so here's how 2 works. And then the developer would be like, right, but that's not why we did that, which is the plus 2, right? And that's how we get 5. But I think it could be, I think as long as everybody knows that me going into this as like a non-developer and saying like here, almost like a literary analyst, right? So like, because that's kind of what I'm doing anyway, is when you're in university and you're taking lit classes, those people aren't writers. They have no idea how to write. Does that make sense? Like if they needed to sit down and like write a book, they would have no fucking idea how to do it. But in contrast, they know a lot about analyzing it from the perspective of a literature person, right? Uni got canceled for the day due to inclement weather and a snowstorm or something like that. Yeah, I mean, Carbondale, you know, it could be like sunny or it could be ice rain and 6 feet of snow. Oh, we playing Magic today? We might. I'm going to present 2 options. To be fair, analysis is about a lot more than authorial intent. Yeah, true. Right. Yeah, it's just analysis. That's why you can analyze some random novel, like, I don't know, Scarlet Letter, right? You can analyze Scarlet Letter from a Marxist perspective. It's like, what would the Marxists think about the Scarlet Letter? And it's like, well, it has nothing to do with communism. And it's like, it has everything to do with communism if you look at it from a communist perspective, right? And so, I just, maybe those types of videos could work in that regard, right? Where it's like all of these things that I'm not coming at them from a game developer's design perspective. What I'm coming at it from is like, here is what these things convey to a literature person. So, I don't know. I think it could be kind of cool. 5-10 minutes. Magic would take a lot longer. One day it was close to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Then a few days later, the outside was actually covered in, it's Carbondale. Bermuda Triangle. Okay, so 2 options. We have 2 options. And I might end up removing one. But there are currently 2 options. Option 1, we play Magic. And we're going to play it on Arena because it's probably the easiest way that I can look at things and show you guys things. Like, I like Magic Online, but first of all, Magic Online, you can't read the cards as easily as you can in Magic Arena. Second thing, I don't have even remotely the same number of cards in Magic Online that I do in Magic Arena. So that's option 1. And then I'm going to read some things real quick. I'm convinced Carbondale is a fantasy realm pulled straight from the ass of Gary Gygax himself. It could be. You'll never know because it's really hard to get out of there once you're in it. I felt like Amelia Earhart coming out of there. Like I was like, oh my God, I made it out of Carbondale. I didn't think it was possible. I thought the farthest I could get was like St. Louis. And then if I went beyond St. Louis, I'd hit like a wall. Like there would just be this wall that I can't get through. It's like the Truman Show. It's like I'm like bang, bang, bang. How do I, what was I gonna say? Oh, second option. Second option is there's a game that recently came out on Steam called If on a Winter's Night for Travelers. Now, I think that game is going to be really cool, and I think it's going to spark a lot of discussion. Very traditional, a lot of the same stuff I've been doing for a long time. It's an adventure game and has a lot of text, a lot of reading. But the thing that brought my attention to If on a Winter's Night for Travelers is that it shares really similarly a title with one of my favorite novels ever written, If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino. So, given that I understand this book, and I've read this book, and I love this book, it could be interesting. Based on what I was looking at and reading, it doesn't seem to really match well with the novel, though. Because the novel is very weird. And this doesn't seem to... Like, If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, in my mind... Okay, let me break it down real quick. If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler is about you. So it's a second-person novel. The whole book is written in second person. Well, kind of. It's hard to explain. So you read a manuscript at the beginning of a book. And after like 10 or so pages, there's just blank pages after, and you can't find the rest. And so you panic. And so then you go out into the world and you try to find the rest of this manuscript. And every person you go to gives you like, oh, I've heard of that. Here, read this. Is this it? And then you read it and it's not the manuscript, right? So you keep going and going and you're looking and you're looking and you're looking for this manuscript and you just can't find it. But you read these like 10 or like 14 short like novelettes, I guess. They're like longer than a short story, but shorter than right? So you read that, and then that's effectively how the book works, right? It's very not a traditional novel, but I really like that book. Mostly because I just really like Italo Calvino, because he was just cool. So If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, based on what I'm reading, if it were to try and be If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler, what do you guys think it would be? If it were trying to be like a cover of If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler? And while you guys answer that question, I'm going to go back and look at what you guys said before. So let's see. All I'm going to say is Athens, Ohio is pretty similar weather-wise. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've never been. I've been to Dayton, Ohio, and I was miserable. But I was there for Air Force work, and it was freezing. It was the coldest I'd ever been in my whole life. So really it's just that area of the... Yeah, right, okay. Long name for a game. It's very long. If on a Winter's Night is a very long name. Hun Nifty, I'm assuming that's in reference to If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler. The book is great. I highly recommend everybody read the book. It's super good. It's super fun. It's not like action-packed, but it's very good. It sounds interesting. This feels like a really unique take on a frame story. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, it is like a... It is a frame. Essentially, it is a frame story. Probably wandering around finding books to read. Trying to find a game. I think it would be similar in a way that you go find games. Yes, exactly. You know where my heart lies. Yeah. I think I vaguely heard of this game. Isn't it four travelers sharing stories with each other around a campfire? That, I believe, is Gods Will Be Watching. That's by Deconstruct Team. This is by, I think, one person. And I'm going to play this game. It's going to happen. So it's not like if we choose Magic or if we choose... Both of them are going to get played. It's just a matter of... Because I'm going to be moving this weekend. I'm probably not going to have access to my machine either next week or maybe the following week. It depends on how the internet shit works out. But we're trying to get the internet going in our new place so that I can keep streaming. But we are moving, and that always throws a loop in everything. But yeah, so if on a Winter's Night for Travelers, 100% is going to get played. Probably also... now that you mention it, Toaster Shooter, probably also Gods Will Be Watching, because those are really cool. Also, essays on empathy. I have that as well. Let's see. That's really cool. Wandering around a medium. Yeah, exactly. Like, you're in a book, you're reading a book, and you're reading about how you are trying to find a manuscript, right? So it only makes sense to me that if you're going to name a game, If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, and I'm going to say this again when I stream If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, it only makes sense that you would try to stay true to that subject material in that you're trying to find a game to play. Because you could do a really interesting thing with that, I think, where like you're going to like an arcade or whatever, and you play like the first chapter of this game is you go to an arcade, you play this incredible game. Now you're trying to find another one. You're trying to find, like, you go back the next week and it's gone. Now you got to find it. Where did it go? Somebody says, oh, I have a cassette of that game. I have like a cartridge of that game. Did you want to try it? And then you try it, and it's not the same game, but it's cool in its own way, but it's not the same. What was that game, right? And then you keep trying to find it. I think you could do something very interesting with that concept. But If on a Winter's Night for Travelers does not seem to be doing that. It seems like it's almost like a murder mystery on a train. So, not that it ripped off the name. I don't think that it's a rip-off. I don't think there's such thing as a rip-off. But I think that it uses the name in a way that would confuse people who read If on a Winter's Night or Traveler. Let's see. If on a Winter's Night 4 DPS stood in the goddamn fire again. Yes. Right. World of Warcraft. If on a Winter's Night 4 DPS stood in the goddamn shit. Don't stand in it. Maybe playing the role of a games conversationist. Yeah, right. Or like a reviewer, or hell, even it almost doesn't matter. You know, it could be you. It might just be a playful reference. It could be a playful reference, sure. Yeah, and I didn't mean rip off to me a negative thing, because I don't actually think that that's a thing, but just in that it's the title is absolutely confusing. How many times do I have to tell you, if you stand in that shit, I won't heal you? I always did, though. Always. Okay, option 1, option 2. Because what I'm planning to do with Magic, if we do Magic today, either way, it's going to be a short stream, I think. It's just gonna. So that's also kind of the reason why I brought up Magic as the second idea. But with Magic, kind of the idea that I wanted to talk about was almost like a... is almost like a breakdown of how a narrative could be told in this type of game. Because I think, as far as like Magic goes, I think there's so much flavor and interesting narratives that you can tell. If on a Winter's Night 4 guys load up an old game disc from a garage sale. Vorthos Magic stream. You're fine with either. Okay. I'm pretty sure Jake is also fine with either. What should we call it if it's Magic? The narrative efficacy of Magic the Gathering. I'm not sure I'll stay around for super long since I do have school. Okay, fair enough. People who play Magic for the story and the narrative that cards tell between the name, art, and mechanic. I did not know that. But that's really cool. Fuck it. Let's do Magic. I told you I might end up removing one of the options. Okay. So, Magic. Man, where the fuck do you start with Magic? First of all, this is probably it's not probably. This is my favorite game ever. Bar none. Like, nothing touches Magic for me. If on a Winter's Night, 4 land cards in my hand. Yeah. If on a Winter's Night, 4 land cards... Put the hand back, or mulligan the hand. Pull up another 7-card hand, 0 lands. Pulls up chair and my library of Magic story notes. Yeah, fair enough. If on a Winter's Night, a counterspell. I had no idea that If on a Winter's Night was going to become like a a meme. Is that what this is? Okay, so Magic, man. Where the fuck do you start with Magic? Magic is a turn-based strategy game where every single card is a character. And it's mind-boggling. Like, let's go to Sizé. So Sizé is what's called a brawl deck, which is actually, I think rip-off is okay in this case, is a rip-off of Commander. And Commander is the most, by far, popular format of Magic you can play. How does Commander work? Well, I'll tell you. There are 99 cards in your deck, including lands, but you can only have 1 of each card. So normal Magic, you can have 4 of each card, and as many lands as you want. Most deck sizes are 60 cards. Commander, also known as Historic Brawl, is excluding basic lands, yes. Commander, on the other hand, is singleton, meaning that you can only have 1 of each, right? So these are organized alphabetically, I believe. So like 1 of Elfhame Druid, 1 of Heroic Intervention, one of Elysian Caryatid, right? And so we'll probably, hopefully we'll play a game. It depends on how in the weeds I get talking about this shit. But, fuck. So the thing that's so cool about this, at least to me, is that everything is just so damn flavorful. And what is flavor? Flavor is a term that I don't believe is used in any other medium but games, right? Like you wouldn't say, oh, you know, the way that they put that coffee cup on the desk in that movie, so flavorful. You know, it's that doesn't really exist. But same with books. It's like, oh man, that scene with the mother, oh, so flavorful. You know, it's like it just doesn't really work. And so I think what flavor is, let me change the title real quick, actually, before I get too in the weeds. Magic as a storytelling medium. Magic the Gathering. Update information. Flavor in games is a big thing. Flavor is, to me, is the combination of story and mechanic. Right, yeah, right. So, like, it wouldn't make sense, for example, if Bantu's Monument was a card that said, draw 2 cards. You know what I mean? Like, if it just said, Bantu's Monument, it costs 3, draw 2 cards. It would, first of all, it would be a really bad card. Actually, no, 3 mana, 2 cards is not bad. But, 3 mana, 2 cards is actually really good. But, so, if it just said 3 mana, draw 2 cards, it would not be very flavorful. It would be good in mechanic, but it would not be a flavorful card because Bantu's Monument, it's in the name, right? Like, it's a monument to something, and it's Bantu. Bantu sounds, you know, like an important thing. And so it only makes sense that a card like this, like Bantu's Monument, would be a legendary artifact, right? And an artifact is not a creature, it's not a spell, and it's not a land. An artifact is like, I always thought of an artifact as something that is made out of metal, or I suppose in this case it's kind of made out of like stone or something, but it's some type of fashioned material, most often metal. And so, yeah, when you have like a legendary artifact, it makes sense for this card to be Bantu's Monument. And what is the flavor text? The worthy shall strive for greatness. Supremacy in life leads to supremacy in the afterlife. So Bantu was the one who strove for greatness. And he has supremacy in life, right? So he is hegemonic. He is hegemonic in life and after death. That's the Monument Inscription. It's incredibly flavorful, right? Like, you get an entire sense of what this thing is. Everything in the art, in the black creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So here's something else we should probably talk about. The color pie. So in Magic, there are 5 colors. 5 colors and colorless. So there's like 6 categories of color, right? There's white, black, blue, red, and green. White, black, blue, red, and green. Yeah. Yeah. And each of them has a very specific thing that they do, right? That they excel at. See, Bantu is a crocodile, god of ambition and Amonkhet. She is taught that no one is born strong; they become it. Dope. Super cool. As far as like a fantasy universe goes, this is like unbelievable. It's kind of a shame that, like, from what I understand, I've never read any of the novels, but from what I understand, they're not particularly good. And I think partially isn't it because all of the novels are written from the perspective of like one of the planeswalkers, which to me is the wrong move. Like, writing it from the perspective of planeswalkers is like writing, I don't know, it's like writing a Warhammer book from the perspective of the Emperor. You know, it doesn't, like, why? Don't do that. Don't do that. one of the things that makes the Warhammer novels so good is because they often give you the perspective of somebody who is small in the universe so that you can see it through the eyes of a human, right? A relatable sense of reality if you were to project yourself into this universe. That's what makes those books so goddamn good, because the Warhammer books are awesome. I love those books. But the Magic books, not so much, because they're kind of like dorky, dopey superhero novels. The older ones are better. There are a couple of Ravnica novels that are a gift. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so back to the color pie thing. So like red only makes sense. It's all about aggression, right? It's about aggression, and it's cheating the concept of how magic works. And I don't mean magic in terms of the game, although kind of in the game as well. But what I mean is that it cheats. Let me show an example. So if we were to go into this creativity deck, for example, red likes to take big risks with mana that can pay off for a win, but if they don't pay off, you lose. Does that make sense? And like, because in all magic systems and all fantasy books, there's an expenditure of magic, right? It's like bullets. You know, you expend magic and it either damages you or it hurts your friend, or, you know, it draws from the well of whatever. And in this, it bears out in the mechanics of cards, right? So like, for example, indomitable creativity. It's 3 red symbols. That's its cost. I can't point at it because if I get off of it, then maybe if I craft, is that possible? Okay, there we go. So it costs 3 red mana symbols, and magic is a resource, yes. And X, which means however much you want to pay, or it means some kind of like algebraic cost, right? So destroy X target artifacts and or creatures. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until an artifact or card revealed artifact or creature card is revealed and exiles that card. Those players put the exiled cards on the battlefield, then shuffle. Now, that's a very complex card. All it is basically saying is, if I destroy one of my things, I can look through my deck until I find a creature or an artifact card, and then I put it on the battlefield. That's really all the card means. But how this illustrates that magic is like red magic takes big risks with its mana is, let's say you don't have any creatures left in your deck, right? You can't get anything. So this card is basically useless now. It functionally doesn't do anything, because you would never want to do this on your opponent's creatures ever, like never. But you're also taking a risk with your mana in terms of you're destroying your own creatures in order to bring out something better, right? Heavy, potentially self-destructive offense. Exactly, that's red, right? That's mountains. Heavily destructive. Then we could go into something like, let's see, black probably. But you can already see how there's like a kind of a narrative being told, right? There's already like if you were to be constructing a novel and you were to say, okay, what are the types of magic that are going to be in this universe? Well, there would be probably a black magic. There would probably be a white magic. There would probably be a red magic. There would probably be a blue magic. You know, like all of these things make perfect sense in terms of like our understanding of how fantasy literature works. But yeah, so let's take a look at, for example, where's that card? Does this deck not have that card in it? What? I know it does. It has to have Death Shadow. It's called Orzhov Shadow. Oh, there it is. Orzhov Shadow. Let's see. The best black cards to look at is Sign and Blood. Sign and Blood is really good. I also think Death Shadow is really good. So we'll look at both of those. So Death Shadow. The famous thing about black is that black doesn't give a shit about its own life total. If you're playing black, you are often hurting yourself as much as you're hurting your opponent. Because the more you hurt yourself, the better your stuff ends up being, right? Like, you hurt yourself to draw cards, or you you hurt yourself, for example, with Death Shadow. So Death Shadow is a 1 mana, meaning incredibly cheap, 13/13. Now, in Magic, you only have 20 life. So if this thing hits you twice, you're dead, right? If it hits your opponent twice, they're dead. However, and it's 1 mana. Oh my god, I can't believe it. It's so cheap. How come everybody doesn't use this card? Well, Death Shadow gets -X/-X, where X is your life total. So that means if you put this out on turn 1 and you have 20 life, this thing is like a -8 or whatever, right? So it's dead. Like it instantly dies the second it comes onto the battlefield. Meaning that you now need, in order to use this card effectively, you need to reduce your life total to sub 13 as fast as you possibly can, so that you can get this big ass creature out and hit them before they can do something with it. Right? Different Magic styles for different purposes. Not the first time that Wizards of the Coast played with that concept. Yeah, totally. Life is a resource. So yeah, they use life as their resource in addition, right? So their cards are like aggressively costed in terms of like, this is a very cheap creature to cast, but you have to pay a big life total cost for it. Yeah, it's explicitly self-destructive. Right? There's another one in here too, Scourge of the Skyclaves. This is very similar. When you cast a spell, if it was... Oh, we don't need to read the kick thing. Scourge of the Skyclaves, power and toughness. Power and toughness is this thing right here and this thing right here, right? So the previous card was 13/13. This is a star, meaning it's also, once again, an algebraic type thing. Each player loses half their life rounded up. Scourge of the Skyclaves, power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. So this card's actually kind of confusing now that I think about it. Basically, you want both you and your opponent to be low life total. So you need to do damage and also take damage. It's hard. Let's see. Did that have any flavor text on it? No? Seriously? Does this... Luris has flavor text. What are you talking about? Is there some way that I can look at flavor text? I know Luris has to have flavor text. It's like, I love ruining Magic. Okay. Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood. This is the one that Jake recommended. Do I have the other version, perchance? Is this the only version in Arena? It must be. Let's see. Sign in Blood. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Right? So one of the things that you would... on first look of this card, especially if you're not a very experienced Magic player, Luris has 0 flavor text. Wow. Okay. They must have known. I don't know. Maybe there's some type of rule for flavor text. It's possible that only like evergreen sets get flavor text or something. I don't know. But Zendikar, I mean, the Scourge of the Skyclaves was Zendikar, and it had no flavor text. But anyway, so Sign in Blood. Oh, this one has flavor text. You would think, looking at this card, for example, that you would want to cast this on your opponent, right? Because, well, in Magic, you're trying to kill your opponent. This does 2 damage. It does 2 damage to them. Now they're at 18. Wow. But once again, knowing what we know about Black wants to do damage to itself. So you pay your own life in order to have an aggressively costed card to draw 2 cards, right? So when I said earlier that 3 mana draw 2 cards was really good, I was speaking not in Black, right? Because in Black, this is just better. It's just better. You want to pay your life. And so that... Oh, I forgot to read the flavor text. I wanted to read that. Sign in Blood. It's always my brightest students who make the worst decisions. Shaile Silverquill Dean. So it's clearly, it's like some kind of necromancy type school. Or at least that's what I'm imagining. But it looks like this was like almost changed a little bit, because this is a very new version of Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood is an old card, And I wonder what the older ones. Yeah, that's the Strixhaven flavor text. That's what I thought. Strixhaven is like a set in Magic. That's probably another thing we should look at. So sets each have their own theme, right? So like, let's say let's go back to Kaladesh, right? Kaladesh is, the theme of the set is like the Inventor's Fair, right? Kind of like the what was that called in the early 1920s, 1900s? They had like a fair where everybody brought like what they had discovered, their new technology or whatever. World Fair. Yeah, the World Fair, right? So Kaladesh is like the World Fair, where all of these different people come in and they show off their new inventions. So you'd imagine that set is very artifact heavy, right? And it is. It's very artifact heavy. There's a lot of artifact type cards in that because, once again, everything made out of metal kind of is an artifact. So, like, for example, Sculpting Steel. This card was in Kaladesh. You may have Sculpting Steel enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact on the battlefield. So you can make copies, which is always powerful, especially for 3 mana. Holy hell, that seems pretty good. Okay, Little Agonies pave the way for greater power. That's the original Sign in Blood. Okay, and then let's move on to the next one. So the next one is Amonkhet. Amonkhet is Egypt themed, ancient Egyptian theme. I've heard of this one actually. I remember being fascinated by the idea of a magical inventor's fair, and the cards are amazing. We can look at a few of them. They're so cool. But yeah, so this one is ancient Egyptian themed. Very powerful set. Very good. And they usually try to go in and add just a little bit of story to these things, right? So like, let's take a look. Like the World Fair one I think is pretty obvious, but let's say if we looked at Kaladesh. Where are you, Kaladesh? Kaladesh. We're only looking at cards from Kaladesh. You can see from the art that there's a lot of like flowy metal and like these puzzle knots, these like giant constructs. And it's like they're clearly in like this really regal city. And these, these huge artifacts and vehicles. Oh yeah, that's another thing, vehicles. I forgot about that. Vehicles are like, they're artifact creatures, but they can only be used if you crew them, meaning you tap you turn your own creatures on your side of the battlefield sideways. So let's say like this is crew 4. So you would need, let's say, 2 of these because it's a 2/2. So if you have 2 of these, you can crew 2 + 2 = 4, right? So you put them inside Peace Walker Colossus and they crew it. And they drive it, and then it's a 6/6. So it's, cool. Card's actually not bad. Considering the new set that's coming out soon. So vehicles have to be driven, yes, right. They have to have a crew in order to be used. And we didn't really go over the other colors. Typically white is focused on like fair mana, so it's life gain normally. Like you gain life, you make your creatures like just slightly stronger, like +1/+1, so it makes your 2/1 a 3/2. Typically white is bad, says Jake. It's not. I mean, white is really good as like a support color. I think white is a really great color to add with other colors, but we can talk about that later. That could even be a different thing. So each color ends up getting its own theme as well. So like clearly the theme for this is like car driving, dwarves, right? There's a lot of dwarves, like Saram Senior Artificer, Aerial Responder is also a dwarf. Fairgrounds Warden, also a dwarf. Like there's a heavy dwarf theme with white in Kaladesh. That's not always the case. That's not always going to be dwarves, although dwarves tend to be white in Magic. I don't think I've. Yeah, I mean, occasionally like a black dwarf or a green one, but it's most of the time it's white. And then we look at blue, right? And we get a lot of these guys. Like they use a lot of the same head shape, the Vidalkins, right? Hello, wie geht's? Are you eating now? Okay, it's a Theros. Let's see. I am now just imagining someone selling a Peace Walker Colossus as if it's a car, right? They're primarily red, but Kaladesh made a bunch of white dwarves. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is very true. The dwarves are typically red. The canopy even has cup holders. Blue is always about. Well, but this is a good opportunity to talk about blue. So blue is always. How to describe blue? Blue always plays weak creatures in terms of winning the game, right? A 0/4, a 2/1, a 2/2, a 0/5, a 3/3 for 4 mana. So blue. Oh god, this card is so good. 6 mana, 5/6. See, in green, that's like the 6 mana is like an 8/8. But in blue, it's a 5/6. But in blue, it gets to have flash. And flash means that you can play it on your opponent's turn, right? So blue is very tricky. It's a tricky color. Playing blue is not about beating the cards your opponent plays, but beating them as a person. Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, because most often blue can't compete in a creature game. Blue embodies the concept of logic, technology, and seeks perfection through knowledge. Yeah, right. Which is why blue players think they're so fucking smart. When really they just cast their 2 mana card on the same turn that I, the green player, also cast my 2 mana card. You know? Blue players think they're so smart. Hey. I love making fun of blue. Calm down there, mister. I lost to Aurora. Hey! But yeah, so blue is like... Blue's cool. I think blue's cool. I typically don't play blue. I smell fire. Has someone been burnt? It's a huge amount of... Jake and I go way back. Jake taught me how to play Magic. Like 12 years ago. So, yeah, 20... It's true, though. Yeah, blue players do think they're very smart. It's true. When really they just cast their 2 mana card on the same turn that I cast my 2 mana card. Okay, so, but the thing that's really interesting about blue is that it is a very tricky color. It likes to play on your opponent's turn, right? So if you're playing blue, you tend to play on your opponent's turn. You'll put out like a 1 creature, and then you'll hold up your own mana so that you can play where is a card. I'm sure I'll find one very soon. Oh God, where is it? Oh, Metallic Rebuke. Metallic Rebuke, 3 mana. Yeah, is Counterspell in this? Yeah, it is. It's banned though. But Counterspell is not in Kaladesh. But Counterspell is just... Counterspell is the Mac Daddy. It is the easiest thing to understand. Jesus, do I really need to make it 2 mana? Card called it. Where card called it? Oh, is it not? Do I not have it collected? Oh, I don't have it collected. Hilarious. I remember blue being very confusing to start. Blue is quite confusing because it's hard to understand that. It's hard to understand the concept of an instant, right? So there's 2 different types of spell. I mean, there's like a bunch more, but there's 2 different types of spell that doesn't necessarily mean creature, right? There's sorcery and there's instant, and an instant can be played at any time in which your opponent gives you something to respond to, and that's where blue gets really tricky because you don't really understand what is a thing that you can respond to, right? Priority, yeah. So like if your opponent plays a creature, they give you priority, meaning that they say, I play this creature, now you get to do something. Right? When that happens, you can play an instant. So if I play my 2-mana creature, Jake plays his 2-mana counter target spell, which means this spell doesn't resolve. Your 2-mana creature does not exist. It didn't happen. It was never in the game, right? It goes straight into my graveyard, and the graveyard is where permanents that you control go if they leave the battlefield. Now, there's some other versions of this, but we won't get into that. So let's see. Chose it because I like the color blue. Yeah. I mean, I started with blue as well. No, that's not true. I started with black and green, and then I went to blue. But now I play green, red, and black mostly. Although I play everything. I play every color. I like everything now. I think they're all super cool. I just like to make fun of blue because blue players think they're so damn smart. It's hilarious. Okay, so blue is for impatient people, maybe, but also for very patient people, because blue won't commit to the board for a really long time. Blue will sit back and they'll hold their fist full of cards and they'll go, no. And then I go, can I do this? And they go, no. That's blue. And then when I go, okay, I don't have anything else to do, then blue goes, okay, well, here's my thing. Here's my thing. I get to win now. That's blue. Let's see. The war between red and blue is very interesting and is shown well with the elemental blasts. Yeah, that's true. I wish those cards were in Arena so that I could kind of display them, but like blue and red hate each other. That's the other thing. We could talk about that as well. Jesus Christ. We haven't even gotten through all the colors yet. He makes fun of blue because I'm a blue player. I make fun of blue because I love to make fun of blue. Not because you play blue. That has nothing to do with that. I make fun of blue when I'm sitting by myself alone. Like alone in the dark. I'm like, seriously, I'm not kidding. When I'm playing Arena or I'm playing in MTGO and I see blue come down, I start going like this. I counter your spell! By myself. I do that. You have to be so fucking patient. Yeah, you got to be really patient to play blue. See how he pushed up the fake glasses? Indeed. No, that hasn't. No, not because you wear glasses. You fucking asshole. Okay, so let's talk about something else here. I'm getting all over the place. I'm trying to talk about Kaladesh. I'm trying to talk about colors. Let's just stay focused. So we did white, blue, black, and red. Now we go to green. Green. The color. Green. Weed. Green. Oh, what to say about it? Green is the color of just dudes who work out. That's not true. Green is the color of permanence. Green is aggressively costed, but often very generic and vanilla. The best color in Magic. Maybe. I contend that it's blue. The biggest impression I'm getting from this is that blue is a deck built around Nope cards from Exploding Kittens. Exactly. That is what a Nope card is. It's like, I swear to God, it's an exact reference to Counterspell, because it's what all children say to each other when they're playing Magic for the first time. They tap their 3 blue islands and they go, nope. And then the person who's playing green goes, this is so fucking annoying. Or so frickin'. Whatever. Exploding Kittens is a fucking hilarious card. Yeah, it is really funny. It's a fun game. Green is a good color. It's a combo of my 2 favorite colors. I like it. Yeah. So green is about permanence. And the permanents are oftentimes not particularly interesting, right? So like green is too strong, ban all green cards. That's what blue players say, because they counter my 2 mana creatures and not my 4 mana creatures. So I'm trying to find out like a really good example of a card. Where is Werewolf Pack Leader? This card is just awesome. Great card. Werewolf Pack Leader. All right. 2 green mana. 3/3. Now that's aggressively costed. the common wisdom is if you spend 1 mana on a creature, you get a 1/1. If you spend 2 mana on a creature, you get a 2/2. If you spend 3 mana on a creature, you get a 3/3, right? There's some wiggle room in there, like 3 mana on a 2/4 or 2 mana on a 3/1, right? So there is some wiggle room in the way that you can set these things up, but a 2 mana 3/3 is a very strong creature. Very strong for its mana cost. And that's because it's in green. If this were blue, it'd be 2 mana 0/4, sacrifice it, counter target spell, right? Let's see. I will die on this hill. Mono green is more annoying than mono blue. Also, no self-respecting blue mage would counterspell a non-combo piece too. But green doesn't have combos. Green doesn't do combos. Green plays creatures and then swings. Green plays creatures and then attacks. That's what green does. But so okay, of course green has combos. Okay, once again, Jake, you're going to be talking about Commander, and I'm not talking about Commander. I'm talking about 60 card formats right now. I know that green has combos. I know. But what I'm saying is, in your bog standard 60 card deck or in your limited deck, that you went to the Magic Shop, you paid your $20 and you got your 3 packs. Biograph, fair enough. Yeah, Biograph's also really good. Biograph is a great creature, but it's unplayable, which is weird. So in standard and we don't need to talk about formats. That's not something we need to talk about today. But Biograph is an extremely aggressively costed creature, right? It's a 2 mana 5/4. Whoa! But you have to sacrifice your own creature in order to play it, or you pay 3. The thing that's weird about Biograph, though, is that green typically doesn't sacrifice its own creatures. That's not a thing that green does. That's a black thing. Black magic tends to sacrifice its own stuff, right? Green, not so often. Yes, exactly. Good for black-green mix. Exactly. That's when we can talk about other cool shit. But yeah, so that's essentially the basics of green, right? It can draw cards. It's pretty good at drawing cards. It's good at removing things in terms of not directly removing, but it's really good at removing creatures. It's great at removing creatures because it has stuff like this: duel for dominance, choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Skip that clause. The 2 creatures fight each other, right? So your green creature is huge. You fight the blue creature that's a 0/4, right? And you kill it. So that's really good. It's also really good at removing enchantments. But we don't need to talk about enchantments yet. We can talk about some other things first. Okay, so. But on the point that Corvidash made about black-green. Check this shit out. Do I still have the deck? No, it's gone. Shit. Damn it. Well, let's just make a deck real fast. Let's just call it. We'll put it in historic, and then we'll get. Let's see, cat. Cauldron Familiar, Witch's Oven. That is an artifact. And let's get Squirrel. Squirrel. Okay. So now let's make this big. Now let's type in. Okay. So, looking at these things together. Cauldron Familiar. Big ramp, big creatures, big removal. Yeah. But it's not, I wouldn't say, it's black is the absolute best at killing creatures, right? Bar none. Nothing touches black in terms of killing creatures. Because that's black's thing, you just kill creatures. Green requires you to have your own creatures in order to kill other people's creatures. That's the thing about green. Green needs to have its creatures. Blue doesn't remove creatures. It just never lets them occur. It just counters them. And then red deals damage to creatures, right? Red does 6 damage. So black says kill target creature. Red says deal 4 damage to target creature. So it's a difference, right? So deal 4 damage is really good in certain circumstances, and kill target creature is really good in certain circumstances. And then you also have things like white, which is exile, but we don't need to talk about exile. Exile is basically just super graveyard. It's like the graviest graveyard. So anyway, so let's talk about this. This is a great combo for black and green, right? So Cauldron Familiar. When Cauldron Familiar enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life, right? So when you play this, you spend 1 mana. Pew! The cat comes in, it deals 1 damage to them, and you get 1 life. White has a banhammer. Yeah. Sacrifice a food. Return Cauldron Familiar from your graveyard to the battlefield, right? That's a weird clause. Sacrifice of food. Oh, shit. You guys can't see that because of my camera. My bad. Sacrifice of food. Return Cauldron Familiar from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now let's look at this card. Witch's Oven. Sacrifice a creature. Create a food token. Right? So when you have one of these and you sacrifice one of these, right? You tap the artifact. It kills the Cauldron Familiar. It makes a food. Right? Then, if you sacrifice a food, you can bring it back. So the very simple combo is put a cat down, put an oven down, sacrifice the cat, create a food with the oven, then bring the cat back by sacrificing the food. Now, bang. Ravenous Squirrel is a green creature. It's a green and a black creature. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact or a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Ravenous Squirrel. Right? So now, whenever you sacrifice the cat to the oven, you put a +1/+1 counter on this, so it goes from a 1/1 to a 2/2. This creates a food token. And then when you sacrifice the food token, a food token is an artifact. It's hard to explain. Like I said, sometimes artifacts are weird. But a food token is an artifact. When you sacrifice a food token to bring the cat back, that makes this 2/2 squirrel into a 3/3. Because it's whenever you sacrifice an artifact or a creature, right? So this, because green likes +1/+1 counters. That's another thing that green is really good at, is making its own creatures bigger. That's a thing that green does. Black doesn't really do it, but the black here cares about when things are being sacrificed, right? So if you look, it's a hybrid mana cost, so it's a green and a black. Well, not and, it's and or no, it's or. You can pay green or black, it doesn't matter. But so this is going back to what Corvid Ash was saying, green and black mixing together creates this kind of effect, right? Which is incredibly flavorful and interesting and tells a really interesting story, right? Because now we have this little tree squirrel that is eating a snake, and it's ravenous, and it looks a little evil. It has red eyes. I don't know if you can see that, but it has red eyes. And it really likes when you kill cats and then kill the foods to bring the cats. Now show how this spirals into Rakdos. What do you mean by because Rakdos are ally colors? Is that what you mean? Discard. Because I only have one Rakdos deck. Swap a Ravenous Squirrel with Mayhem Devil. Oh yeah, there you go. Good idea. Okay. Cauldron. Gotta make it historic. Ah. Cauldron. Witch's Oven. Mayhem Devil. Okay. So here's another example. Death Squirrel, yes. Now you can see the black part of Devil wants the sack and the red does the damage. Exactly, right? So same combo again. We have cat, we have the oven. Whenever you sack, blah, blah, blah. However, with this, we have Mayhem Devil. Mayhem Devil says, whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Mayhem Devil deals 1 damage to any target, right? So, with Witch's Oven, we have sacrifice a creature. With Cauldron Familiar, we have sacrifice a food. So that means every time you do one of these cat oven, like that's what the combo is called. It's called cat oven. Every time you do a Cauldron Familiar Witch's Oven loop, meaning you sacrifice the cat and then bring it back, you're dealing 3 damage. 1 damage off Cauldron Familiar, and 2 damage off of Mayhem Devil, because Mayhem Devil does 1 damage each time you sacrifice a permanent. Does that make sense? So this is an incredibly strong combo, because you don't even need to attack. You can keep your creatures completely safe by just not doing anything. You just don't attack with them. And now you're doing 3 damage a turn and gaining 1 life for free. Like, you don't even pay for it. And it all comes down to the way in which these colors interact, right? So like with Mayhem Devil, the black cares, like Jake said, black cares about the sacrifice, red cares about the damage. Let's see. Fun fact, you can do it all on your opponent's turn because it happens at instant speed. Yeah, exactly. You can do this. You can do this as an instant, right? So you can do this at any time. If they play a creature, sacrifice your cat and then bring it back. Then shoot their creature with 2 damage from Mayhem Devil. So would you say that curiosity in playing this deck kills the cat, but satisfaction from seeing what it does brings it back? Absolutely. So you can use the combo to protect your creatures. Yeah, right. You can do this. This combo has so many applications in Magic. It is unbelievable. It's awesome. Now, also, if you wanted to, you can just throw in a Ravenous Squirrel. No, not craft it. Now, if you throw in a Ravenous Squirrel, now, whenever you sacrifice the cat, you're getting +1/+1 counters on this, and you're doing 2 damage, right? And it's all because of the mixture of the green and the black and the red. So this isn't particularly narrative based, but one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that it shows how the game designers thought about how these things could interact with each other in a way that makes sense from their magical standpoint. I think it's completely narrative based. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Danke. So yeah, that's kind of the ultimate point I'm trying to make, is that, like, even though these are all mechanical functions in the game, there's still a lot of things going on in terms of how the narrative works, right? So, like, once again, if this was named Lucky Guardian, right, and it was a white card, it wouldn't make sense. If it was Lucky Guardian, 3 mana, whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, deal 1 damage. There's a very abstract narrative going on here, almost. Yeah, it is quite abstract, right? And you can bear out more when you see more of the cards in concert with each other, but just looking at this pile of statistics and mechanics is not particularly, like, you don't quite see like this is the hero going on their journey, you know, but there is somewhat of a fleshing out of a world taking place. You were showing how the flavor of each color combines to create a brand new but familiar narrative. Yeah, right. What was the... This card is not legal in the following formats. Standard treasure? The fuck? Despite their stake in the city's survival, Rakdos cultists are loath to pass up any opportunity to sow chaos. Right. So I guess this is a good opportunity for us to talk about the guild colors. And this is going to be the last thing I talk about because I actually got to go. But guild colors. So let's take all this out. Bang. Nothing ravenous. Creature. Okay. So you will notice a theme with certain cards. Every day the cat returns to kill the same mouse, which sinks again into the cauldron's brew. Yeah. Not every narrative is about a hero. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of what I mean is like, because there is a narrative that they write about each set that they put out. There is actually an overarching narrative in all of them, right? So like, like Kaladesh, once again, is the World Fair. And I'm just going to click. Where's Judith? Judith is the card I want to find. There we go. Judith is the perfect example. I'll return to this in a moment. Save. Let's go to packs, and then let's go to get packs. So just to go back on this real quick. So like Kaladesh, World Fair, Amonkhet, there is a narrative that takes place in this ancient Egyptian fantasy stand-in world, right? There is an overarching narrative of like, I can't remember what happens. I have no idea, but there is usually something about invasion or some kind of problem coming to this particular plane, right? Because that's the thing, is all of these planes are almost like they're basically universes that the heroes of magic come to either destroy or help. So Amonkhet is the name of the universe. The plane of existence, as it were. Was macht er? Oh, little Hund. Eldraine, for example, is a set all about. It's like a fantasy, like a fable, right? It's like Brothers Grimm type stuff, with like the beanstalk giant and like the Three Little Bears and fairy tales. Thank you. God, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. It's like the fairy tale universe. So they go there. There's some shit going on in the fairy tale universe, and they fix it. And then you have like Strixhaven. This is basically the Harry Potter set. There's like a magic university, and all the magic people at the magic university do magic shit. This is literally based on Dungeons and Dragons. It's called Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I'm assuming that it's in the Forgotten Realms. And they show that in the adventure in the mechanics by adventure cards. Exactly. That is in Eldraine. Eldraine is very defined by its adventure mechanic, which is where it's a creature that also has a spell attached to it, right? So when you cast the spell, your creature goes on an adventure, right? It's very flavorful. It's very interesting in that regard. Theros is the ancient Greek set. So it's a lot to do with gods, like gods and titans battling each other. And Theros is like one of my favorite sets ever, even though everybody kind of hates it, I think, but I personally love it. Ikoria is almost like a B monster movie set. It's like Godzilla, which is why they actually literally did a crossover event where they literally sold Godzilla art on cards, and mutating monsters and shit. The 21 sets, the like numbered year sets, those are typically, I don't really know if there's much of a narrative to these, but because they kind of just reset the magic universe. Innistrad, this is like a horror set, right? So it's a lot of zombies, werewolves, vampires. The core sets are just that. They reset the universe, right. And so Innistrad is a very horror-themed set. A core set of cards they wanted to reprint. Yeah, right. And then this is one of the weirder sets. This is like a wedding. They have a wedding. It's kind of personally, I thought that this was a very weak set. I mean, it's pretty flavorful, but like, it's not a very interesting to me. Like, wedding ring. Do I not have wedding ring for real? Is it not called wedding ring? Oh no. Wedding announcement. Card wise, super weak. Story wise, it was awesome. Did you really? I didn't like it. I thought it was very on the nose. It was like wedding announcement. Like, it's called wedding announcement. I read it. I loved it. Oh, are you? Is there like a book? Because I didn't read the book. I'm gonna actually head out, but there's been some fair amount of interesting discussion. Cool. I'm glad that this actually did bear some fruit. I was a little worried. But yeah, so like you can see how these sets are relatively themed in terms of like what cards that they put out, right? And this card is a ridiculously flavorful version of this as well. At the beginning of your end step, something you don't need to know, put an invitation counter on wedding announcement, an invitation counter. So that means you put like a little stone on it. If you attacked with 2 or more creatures this turn, draw a card. Otherwise, create a 1/1 white human creature token. So right, like you make these little white 1/1 human creatures come in, and at the end of your turn, because your wedding guests are showing up. Every time they release a new set, they release a free narrative set of short stories. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so I think that's going to be it for me. We could actually talk about this just so much more. Balloon 9. Absolute 9. Okay. I'm glad that you thought it was really cool. I think we should do this again, probably at a later date. Once again, I think it's hilarious that I was like, hopefully we'll get to a game, and then we didn't even get close. But yeah, so we will hopefully return to this so I can talk about some more things, because there is a lot of really incredible things in terms of what Magic does with its narrative. Because, I mean, this is a game that's been running for like 30 years, and they still are telling a story, right? And they tell a story, like a huge story, 4 times a year, every year. It's like crazy. Since 1986, yeah. Edgar and Olivia got married, combining the 2 most powerful vampire houses in Innistrad. Soren is there to be a badass and killing bad guys by doing almost evil shit. Yeah, that sounds... I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I picked up on that, and I didn't read any of it, right? Like, I knew that Edgar and Olivia were getting married. I don't really know who Olivia is. I just know that she was getting married, because I think there's literally a card called, like, Olivia Blood Bride or some shit. And Soren looks mad, so I was like, okay. But yeah, so I'm glad that everybody thought this was really cool. She's a tyrant because it's a huge fantasy universe, huge, and just the sheer number of little teeny stories that get told in random cards are so cool to me. Like, I wish I could look at some of the older cards, because I think they do a really good job of it, but like this is a good example, and then we can go. Chaplain of Alms. I loved Innistrad so much. I thought it was so cool. The party stuff, the legendary cards. But even just like this teeny little card right here, I love this one. So Chaplain of Alms, it's a human cleric, and you can see in the art that he's like standing in front of some church or something, and he has first strike, which means he deals his damage before your opponent's creature deals their damage. And he has Ward 1, which means that if you try to kill it, you have to pay 1 extra mana. And then he has Disturb 4, which means when he dies, you can pay 4 mana and then return him to the battlefield as this creature. A 2/1 with flying first strike. Each time, each creature you control has Ward 1, right? So he has Ward 1 when he's a human, and then when he dies and comes back as a spirit, he is Chapel Shieldgeist, and he gives all of your creatures, because now he is a Shieldgeist, right? He's a shield ghost. He protects his people, and like just this, like this is a whole character. This is a whole story in this one little card with 3 mechanics in it, right? That's it. And it's a whole story about this dude, about this priest guy or girl. It's probably a girl. Yeah, I think it's a girl. Anyway, badass, super cool. We'll probably do, okay, so once again, I'm not going to be streaming next week. 100% that's not happening. We will be moving, and not going to happen. Maybe the week after, not sure yet. I will update everybody in the Discord, but 100% don't come here on Thursday. I'm not going to be here. Good luck moving. Thank you very much. I'm very excited. It's going to be nice. Anyway, have a good rest of your day. And yeah, I hope what I said. Goodbye.